Lightning split the sky like a whip, its crack drowning out the groan of wind that tore through the dry plains. Dust spun in the air like ghosts spiraling across the yard of the Brogan ranch. Elias Brogan stood knee-deep in mud boots, heavy hands white-knuckled on the reins of his stallion Crow. The black horse trembled, nostrils flaring, refusing to step forward. Elias grunted, tugged once more, but Crow reared back, hooves slicing the rein ears. Pinned flat eyes wide, not in fear of thunder, but of something inside the stable. "It's just a storm, boy," Elias' muttered voice sandpapered from disuse. "Ain't nothing in there." He pulled harder. Crow jerked his head and neighed sharp, lunging away, ripping the reins from Elias's grip. The old man stumbled back, catching himself against the fence post, eyes narrowing. The stable loomed ahead, its doors swinging open and shut in the wind. Nothing but shadows inside. Nothing but hay tools and empty stalls. Still, Crow wouldn't go near it. He circled wide, snorting, staring at the far left corner of the stable like there was a rattlesnake ready to strike. Elias grabbed the reins again and tried coaxing the horse with a softer tone, but it was no use. Crow planted his feet and refused. Then Elias saw it just for a flicker, something shifting behind the wood slats of the stable wall. Not a shape, not a light. Elias Brogan hadn't spoken more than a handful of words to another soul in nearly 6 years. Not since the posters were pulled down, not since the posses stopped riding out, not since the morning he folded his daughter's blue dress and placed it in a cedar box that now gathered dust atop his wardrobe. Folks in town called him a ghost in boots. Said he went crazy after his little girl Clara vanished without a trace. Said a man shouldn't be left alone that long, not with silence thick enough to hear guilt breathing. Elias lived simple now. Up before the sun, bread and coffee by dawn, fence mending before noon, water run by 3, and horses fed before dusk. Each evening he'd step to the edge of the porch, look toward the tree line, and flip open an old silver pocket watch cracked down the middle, the hands stuck at 4:12. That was the time Clara was last seen riding her little mare near the south fence line. Elias had carved that mare's saddle horn himself, made small for a girl's hands. He buried the saddle behind the barn when they found the horse wandering alone. He never spoke of the search, the sleepless weeks the bounty offered the men with dogs, nor of the day the sheriff laid a small wooden doll, Clara's favorite, on Elias's table and just shook his head. The land aged with him. The walls needed paint, the fences sagged, but he kept the stable door greased, the lanterns trimmed. He lived inside time, inside ritual, like a penance. Every Sunday he still wrote a letter to Clara, never mailed them. He stacked them in a wooden crate under his bed. One for every week she'd been gone. Sometimes he would sit in her room and talk a loud voice, barely above a breath, like she might answer from the walls. Her room had stayed untouched, the green blanket folded just so the blue ribbons tacked above her dresser. The tiny boot prints still pressed into the old pine floor. That night, after Crow refused the stable, Elias sat on the porch with the reins beside him, the horse tethered to a post 20 feet away, still unsettled. The lantern's glow barely reached the edge of the yard, and beyond it the prairie was all black and wind and sighs. He opened the pocket watch again. 4:12. Always. A wind gust pushed open the stable door. He thought about going in, checking the tools, the corners, the grain sacks, but his feet didn't move. He just watched the door swing, creak, close, swing again. Then he heard something odd. A creak, not from the wind, but from inside. He listened closer. A sound too deliberate for wood, like footsteps. He grabbed the lantern and took 2 steps forward. But then the wind died suddenly like a held breath, and the sound stopped. Elias stared into the dark stable. For a second he saw Clara's face, but when he blinked it was gone. Just the empty barn again, the old walls weathered like memory. He didn't go in. He just turned back, climbed the porch steps, and sat again, lantern still in hand, burning low. A man doesn't lose his daughter and come back the same. Some don't come back at all. Elias never truly had. And something in that stable, whatever it was, had waited long enough. 2 mornings later, as the sun peeled back the night like old wallpaper, Elias found tracks in the garden, barefoot, small, pressed fresh into the mud. He knelt beside them, hand hovering just above the prints. Not animal, not his, not a trick of wind or rain. Human, a child. He followed the trail along the fence line past the water trough to where the tall grass met the tree line. That's when he saw her. A girl no older than 8 crouched behind a bush, dirt streaked across her cheeks, hair tangled, dress torn. Her eyes met his and froze. She bolted. "Wait," Elias said, voice unused to calling. She vanished into the trees. He stood there a long time staring after her, thought he might have imagined it. But then he saw the glint of something in the grass. He bent down. A wooden toy, worn from handling, smoothed by time, a carved bird, tiny wings spread mid-flight. Elias's breath caught. He knew that toy. He'd made one just like it for Clara. Same pattern, same scratch on the wing where his knife slipped. Only 2 existed. He'd made the second for Clara's best friend the summer before she vanished. He took the toy inside, placed it on the mantel. That night he left a bowl of stew on the porch, no questions asked. By morning it was gone, so he left bread the next night. Gone again. On the 3rd night he waited. She came just after moonrise, crept barefoot from the tree's eyes, scanning. She moved like a shadow. When she reached the bowl, Elias spoke. "You hungry? You're welcome to eat inside. Ain't no one gonna harm you." She froze, like a deer caught still. "Name's Elias." Silence. "You got a name?" Her eyes darted to his face, then to the door, then back. She bolted again, but this time she left something behind. A ribbon, blue, faded. Elias's hand trembled as he picked it up. His daughter's color, her favorite. He didn't sleep that night, just sat in Clara's room, ribbon in one hand, pocket watch in the other. The next day he chopped wood, mended the stable latch, left the door open wide. And that night, he didn't wait. He sat by the fire like he always did, left the stew where he always did, and heard the door creak open behind him. Soft footsteps. She entered the house, stood in the corner like a wild animal unsure of shelter. Elias didn't turn. He just ladled another bowl, set it on the table, and stepped back. She crept forward, ate slow, cautious. He let her. She didn't speak, just kept her eyes low. When she finished, she pointed to the bird on the mantel. "Was hers," Elias said softly. The girl nodded, then pointed at the ribbon in his hand. "Yours?" he asked. She shook her head. "Clara's," she whispered. The voice was cracked and dry, but the word was clear. Elias's heart stopped. "You knew her." The girl nodded again, then walked to Clara's room without asking, like she'd been there before, or like she remembered. She climbed onto the bed, curled up, and fell asleep. Elias stood in the doorway, the pocket watch swinging from his fingers. The wind outside had gone still. Inside something shifted. Not the air, not the light. Something in him. Something like hope. Something like fear. The girl stayed. Didn't speak much, but she stayed. Elias learned to move slower, to leave space. He didn't ask questions. She didn't offer answers. Still, she began helping, carrying water, folding linens, brushing down Crow, who accepted her without a twitch. She seemed to know horses, or maybe they knew her. She didn't flinch at storms or thunder, only at doors, especially the stable. When Elias asked if she'd go in with him, she shook her head hard, the kind of shake that says more than words. He didn't push. On the 5th morning, just as the sun rose behind the cottonwoods, a cloud of dust approached from the southern road. Riders. 4 men, all wearing red sashes at their belts like warning flags. Their horses were too lean for honest travel, and their leader rode a gray stallion with silver shoes, an expensive touch in poor country. Elias saw them first from the porch, coffee still in hand. He watched without moving. The girl peeked from behind the curtain and went pale. She backed away into the hallway, didn't speak, didn't need to. Elias stepped off the porch. The men stopped at the gate. The leader removed his hat. Short-cropped hair, face like leather, a jagged scar across his jaw. "Morning," he said with a drawl too smooth to trust. "You Elias Brogan was last I checked. Name Sten Clary. Pine Ridge Trade." Elias didn't reply. The name hung in the air like a stench. Pine Ridge. He'd heard it whispered years ago outfits that ran children sold labor took runaways off the map. Called it trade, called it legal. Towns looked the other way. Too many pockets filled, too many sheriffs bought. We're looking for someone, Clary continued. Girl, young, stole from one of our camps, pretty eyes, quiet. Elias's face stayed flat. Ain't seen no girl, Clary smiled. We got reason to believe she passed through here. Maybe still here. Elias stepped forward. You accusing me of something, Mr. Clary, just stating facts. Now, law's thin in these parts, so I'd rather keep things friendly. But you'd be doing us a favor if you'd let us look around. Don't recall inviting you. Didn't ask for an invitation. Clary dismounted, the others following. Elias's hand dropped to his belt fingers, brushing the revolver grip. Best you turn around. Or what Clary's smile died. You gonna shoot 4 men to protect a thief? Elias didn't answer, just stared. Behind him, the door creaked. The girl stood there, fists clenched, face tight with fear. Clary saw her. There she is. Elias stepped sideways, blocking the view. She's under my roof now. She's Pine Ridge property. She's a child. Clary's hand dropped to his holster. Last chance, old man. Elias's voice dropped cold. You ain't got the stomach to bury your boys. But I do. The silence that followed was heavy. One of Clary's men shifted in the saddle. Another spit. Clary studied Elias, eyes thin as razors. You remember a man named Wes Darden? The name hit Elias like a punch. He flinched before he could stop himself. Yeah, Clary said, seeing it. Thought you might. Man you left bleeding back in '72 after a bad deal. He was my brother. Elias's fingers curled tight around the grip. That's so. This ain't just about her. It's about settling. Clary mounted again. We'll be back tomorrow, with more men. He spat into the dirt. You got one night to do the right thing. They rode off slow and deliberate, a warning in every hoofbeat. Elias stood in the yard long after the dust settled. The girl stepped beside him, eyes wet. I don't want to go back, she whispered. He didn't look at her. You won't. Inside, he pulled a shotgun from under the floorboards, loaded it slow. Each shell a memory. He stared at the pocket watch on the mantel. Still stuck, still waiting. He'd made mistakes in his life. Plenty. But this one, this girl, he wouldn't add to that list. Not now. Not again. That night, Elias boarded the windows. Not in panic, he moved with purpose like a man who'd done this before. He locked the doors, loaded every shell, placed oil lamps at choke points, filled buckets from the well, checked the horse gate twice. The girl stayed silent, watching his hands. When she asked what would happen if they came early, Elias didn't answer. He just set the rifle on the table and nodded toward the cellar hatch. If shooting starts, you go down there. Don't come up unless I fetch you. She stared at him. You'll come for me, I promise. His voice cracked on that word. She didn't press. He showed her the latch, gave her Clara's blanket, left her a biscuit and canteen. Then he climbed the stairs alone back into the waiting dark. The sky above split with stars and silence. The wind had gone still again. Too still. Like breath held in a lung about to burst. Crow paced restlessly, tied near the stable, his hooves grinding at the dirt. Elias sat in a chair, outside, shotgun across his lap lamp burning beside him. He wore his cleanest shirt, Clara's favorite blue one. Midnight passed. Nothing. Then around 2, the first sound came. Hooves. At least 6, maybe more. Then figures, shadows on horseback, sliding through the grass like wraiths. No lanterns, no talk. Just the quiet of trained men approaching a kill. Elias stood. They didn't call out this time. No parley, no negotiation. The first shot rang from behind the barn, missed but close. Elias dropped behind the fence and returned fire. The bullet struck wood, scattered sparks. Another rider flanked from the left, crouched low, rifle raised. Elias rolled, fired again. This one found its mark. The man screamed and toppled. Another fired from behind the trough. The shot grazed Elias's shoulder, tearing cloth and flesh. He didn't cry out, he'd taken worse. He dove behind the water barrels, breath sharp, reloading in the dark. A lantern burst near the stable, igniting the dry straw. Flames leapt like devils, casting flickers across the chaos. And through it all, Crow screamed and thrashed, still refusing the stable. The horse knew what hid behind that wall. Elias shouted into the fire. "You want the girl, come take her." Clary's voice rose above the gunfire, slick as oil. "You don't get to hide behind children anymore, Brogan. You're gonna pay for what you did." Elias ducked another shot, then surged forward, firing both barrels at a rider who charged the porch. The blast knocked the man from the saddle. Another came from the east, galloping straight for the barn. He meant to drive the fire further. Elias pivoted, reloaded, fast shot once. Missed. The rider lit a second torch. Elias cursed, sprinted toward him, close enough now to tackle. He hit the man hard, sent the torch flying. They struggled in the dirt, fists flying, blades drawn. Elias's old strength surprised them both. He drove a knife into the man's leg, shoved him back, then crawled for the torch and stomped it out. But the flames from the stable had caught now. Wood screamed. Roof beams cracked. The barn was going. Crow kicked free of his tether, bolted across the yard. Elias tried to stop him, but the horse didn't run away. He charged the porch, snorting, blocking the cellar door like a sentinel. Elias coughed, chest burning. He saw the girl's face watching from beneath the hatch, her eyes wide with terror. More riders came, 6 now, all around, closing in. Then Elias saw Clary himself walking through the smoke like a devil in red. Gun drawn. No more running, Brogan. This ends now. Elias stood, bleeding, legs wide, gun empty. "Ain't running. You think you're a hero," Clary snarled. "You left my brother to die. Your brother took my daughter." Clary blinked. "What you didn't know?" Elias pointed at the stable. "He used that place, that back wall. That's why your boys burned it, to cover the stink of what he left." Clary stepped back. "You're lying. Dig behind it if it's still standing. You'll see what he did. You'll see what you're defending." Clary hesitated, then fired. The bullet struck Elias in the thigh. He dropped to one knee, gasping. The girl screamed. Crow reared and bolted again. Clary stepped forward, raising his gun. Elias looked up, blood in his beard. "If you shoot me now, you won't ever find the rest of the truth." Clary froze. Then something snapped overhead. The stable wall, blackened and burning, groaned and collapsed outward with a thunderous crash. Beneath it, the earth split and gave way. Smoke cleared. And there, half buried, exposed by falling beams, was a shape. Small, human, wrapped in blue cloth. Next to it, something gleamed in the firelight. A badge. Pine Ridge. Clary stepped forward, slow now, eyes wide. "That's—" He stopped, said nothing more. Elias didn't move, didn't need to. The truth had spoken. The riders around them lowered their guns. One dismounted. Another turned away, pale. Clary stared at the remains, then at Elias, then at the girl. And something in him cracked. He holstered his weapon. "We're leaving," he said, voice hoarse. He turned, climbed into the saddle, and rode off without a word. One by one, the others followed. No shots, no threats, just hoofbeats fading into the dawn. Elias collapsed in the dirt, blood pooling beneath him. The girl ran to his side, hands pressed to his wound. "Stay with me," she cried. He looked at her, really looked. In her face, he saw Clara. Not the same, but familiar. Like memory. Like forgiveness. Then he passed out, the burning stable behind him and the first light of morning rising over the wreckage. Elias woke to pain, thick, gnawing pain that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. The light above him was soft. He tried to move and couldn't. Then a shadow crossed his vision. Small hands, trembling, pressed a damp cloth to his forehead. The girl sat beside him, knees tucked under her chin, watching. "You're not dead," she whispered. "Not yet," Elias rasped. His throat felt like dry leather. She helped him drink. The water was cold. Real. Alive. He closed his eyes and breathed. He was in Clara's room, lying on her bed. Bandages wrapped his thigh tight. Blood had dried beneath the edges. He turned his head and saw the pocket watch beside the lamp, still ticking. He blinked. It had moved. 4:14. For the first time in 6 years, the hands had shifted. Outside, the stable had burned nearly to the ground. Only the stone footing and half a wall remained. That afternoon, townsfolk came. Word had spread gunfire firemen from Pine Ridge fleeing. One of them was the undertaker. Another was the preacher. Together they unearthed what the fire had revealed. The small bones wrapped in blue, the rotted remnants of a child's dress, a faded ribbon, and the silver badge marked with the seal of Pine Ridge Trade. The sheriff didn't come, wouldn't. Elias had expected that. No one dared arrest men with money in reach. But the townsfolk saw. They carried what they found in silence. No questions. Just grief. Elias asked for one thing, a box. A simple one. They built it with pine from the grove near the south fence. Elias placed Clara's letters inside, every one he'd written stacked neatly. Her ribbon, her toy bird, and the pocket watch still ticking. He buried her under the cottonwood tree just past the fence where she used to ride. No stone, just a cross carved by hand with the initials CB. The girl stood beside him, silent through the whole thing. When the preacher spoke words of rest, Elias held her hand. She didn't let go. That night he sat beside the ashes of the stable. His leg burned, but he didn't mind. Crow grazed nearby, finally calm. Not once had the horse approached that building until it was gone. Elias understood now. That horse had remembered, had sensed what he himself refused to face. Behind that wall had been Clara all along, hidden not just by boards and dirt, but by the weight of a man's guilt. He'd searched everywhere, but never there. Had walked by her 1,000 times, had fed hay beside her grave. He looked at the girl. She was brushing Crow's mane, whispering something soft. She glanced back and smiled. Just once. It struck him like sunrise after long dark. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then stepped closer. "They called me Lily. You want to stay here, Lily?" She nodded. He gestured to the house. "Then it's yours too." Over the next few weeks they rebuilt the stable, tore down the last charred beams, leveled the ground, started fresh. Lily painted the new boards bright red. Elias carved a new gate, 2 names on it etched side by side, Clara and Lily. Crow walked through that gate with no trouble. No fear, just stillness and peace. As they worked, Lily opened up, told him of the camps, dark rooms, men with badges, long rides through dust. She had no parents left, no real name, only memories, and a doll she lost somewhere along the road. Elias didn't ask for more, didn't need to. One night she handed him a letter. "For Clara," she said. He added it to the last letter he ever wrote and buried it beside the tree. That spring, wildflowers bloomed at the grave. Elias caught himself smiling. Just once. In the evenings he'd sit on the porch with Lily beside him, watch the sky burn orange and feel something shift inside, slow like a wound deciding to close. He still kept the broken saddle horn from Clara's mare, hung it on the porch beam. A reminder of what he lost and what he'd found. One day a rider passed through news from the north. Said Pine Ridge Trade was under federal watch now. Said men were talking, documents uncovered, names named. Sten Clary hadn't been seen since the fire. Elias nodded, didn't ask more, didn't need to. Truth once dug up has a way of spreading. That night he opened a new journal, wrote the date, then paused. Looked out at the field. Lily was chasing Crow, laughing. The wind bent the grass like waves, and the stable door stood open wide and warm. A place no longer hiding ghosts, just light and hay and hope. Summer came with soft rain and slow mornings, the kind of days that drift rather than pass. Elias spent them fixing fence posts, mending tools, tending the garden that Lily now claimed as hers. She planted sunflowers along the path to the stable. Said they made the place feel awake. Crow followed her everywhere. The once skittish stallion now let her braid his mane with ribbons, stood patient while she talked to him like a brother. One afternoon she asked Elias if Clara had ever had a dog. He nodded. A beagle, named Cricket. What happened to it? She tied his collar to her bedpost before she rode out that day, Elias said. He waited there till morning. then stopped eating. Died not long after. Lily didn't speak for a while. She just kept weeding the rows, her little fingers working like they'd done this before. That evening, Elias stood by Clara's tree. The wildflowers had doubled. He placed a smooth stone on the mound painted with Lily's name beside Clara's. No last names. Just them. Side by side. A bond that didn't need blood to be real. In town, folks nodded when Elias passed. They didn't speak much, but their eyes lingered, some out of respect, some out of shame. They all knew now. Not everything, but enough. Enough to keep their distance. Enough to let peace settle. One morning, Lily found the pocket watch on the table. It was ticking steady now, no longer stuck at 4:12. She brought it to Elias, who turned it over in his palm. Fixed itself, she said. He smiled. Maybe it was never broken. Just waiting. She tucked it into his shirt pocket. Looks better on you. Days later, she asked if she could call him something else. Like what? Like Pa. He looked out across the field where the wind was rolling low through the tall grass. He swallowed hard. Yeah, he whispered. Yeah, you can. That night, the last letter he wrote sat unsealed on the table. It read only, "She came back in a different shape." But I knew it was her the moment she looked at me like I was worth saving. He placed it in the box with the rest, then buried it deep under Clara's tree. The next morning, the sun rose gentle without drama. Elias stood at the new stable gate, hand resting on the carved names. Crow walked past him into the cool dark like there was nothing left to fear. Lily ran ahead, arms wide like wings, and her laughter echoed off the barn walls. Behind them, the house stood warm. No ghosts in the windows, no silence in the halls. Just life. Just healing. A soft wind lifted the edge of Clara's old ribbon where it hung from the porch. It danced like it remembered how. The story of Elias Brogan would not be told loud nor carried in books. But if you came through that stretch of prairie and passed the gate with two names, you'd feel something. A hush, a presence, a peace that had been paid for dearly but completely. In the end, it wasn't a gun that saved them. It was a stable torn down, a wall broken, and the courage to look at what had been hidden for far too long. A child's ribbon, a ticking watch, a name carved side by side. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, consider subscribing for more tales like this. There's always another story on the horizon. If this story stirred something in you, if the silence, the sacrifice, or the redemption left a mark, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel for more Western tales that cut deep, where every choice echoes and every shadow has a past. Tap the bell so you never miss the next ride. There's always another truth waiting.